As we know, good evening, everybody. My name is Erinma, and as we know, this week has been Refugee Week. And at the beginning of the week, I was talking on my radio show that I do on a Monday evening on Radio Africana, was talking about refugees and Refugee Week. And one of the stories I shared was from a woman called Wa'al Khatib. And what she had done was record her story or her life in Aleppo. Now, the thing is, with a lot of us, with refugees, we only know the stereotypical stories that we hear about refugees. I think I'm supposed to click this, about refugees, what we hear in the media. And usually all that is not true. You know, we hear that they come here, they get free housing and they're given money, you know, and why are they here? And we never really know their true stories. And if we take time out to get to know certain individuals who are different from ourselves and ask questions, we'll begin to understand that, to tell the truth, many of them actually wish they were back home, but they're unable to be at home and be in their environments because of wars and civil wars, which are sometimes, most often than not, caused by people in the West. Now, Wa'al Khatib, she shared her story, and what she had done, she had videoed, like I said, her life for 5 years. And when I say first 5 years, the first 5 years of her daughter's life. Her husband is a doctor, and he was a doctor in one of the last remaining hospitals in Aleppo, Syria. And the hospitals were being bombed, even though there's supposed to be a law, international law, that hospitals are not bombed. The hospital where her husband worked was constantly being bombed. And she was doing, she fell in love during that time. She married her husband and they had a child. And she was doing this video for her daughter to see what Aleppo is like. And she was doing that video in case her and her husband, they don't survive the war. At least then this video will be there for her daughter to see. The film at the moment, the film is being shown, and it's also being used as evidence of war crimes. And it's called For Sama, S-A-M-A, which is the name of her daughter. It's called For Sama. And it's interesting to watch. I think you can find it on, I'm sure it's BBC, The Catch Up, or Netflix, one of the ones. But For Sama is what it's called, and that's all you have to put in. And the reason why I enjoyed it is because, and the reason why I aired it over the radio airwaves, is because, again, people don't actually understand or know what people go through. Wahab is now here with her family as a refugee. They had to come here because she said, you know, in her own words, she says, it just became impossible to live in the environment that they were in. As much as her husband wanted to stay as a doctor to keep helping, he said, but the hospital was constantly bombed. You know, there's a bit in the video where she's feeding her daughter in a high chair, and then there's a bomb that goes off, and you actually see, you know, the cement falling down in their little room, you know, the dust falling down as she's trying to just feed her, you know, her child. And she said it reached the stage where it was just really unsafe. And the video she was doing, people started to say she was working for the opposition and doing the video for the opposition, where she wasn't. She was just mainly doing this video for her child. They now live in London, you know, and she said they count themselves, they're one of the lucky families who were taken as refugees, you know, to come to another country. They still have lots of family there. There's still families that couldn't escape and couldn't be lucky like them. And I think they were removed because they were right at the forefront, and her husband was a doctor. Many a time she would even go to the hospital just to video to show her daughter. So what I would like is that, you know, what I think we need to do, you know, as people, is actually, you know, have a thought for the people who are within our midst, who are different from ourselves, and not only just look at them as different and think, oh yeah, they're different, but actually, you know, maybe if we dare to step out of our comfort zones and actually ask them the question, you know, why are you here? What brings you here? I want to understand, you know, why you're here, because I don't understand and I want to understand. And I think at least then that's us beginning to be a good neighbour, beginning to look out for other people's needs and other people's, you know, whereabouts. A lot of them, whilst they're here now as refugees, remember, being here as refugees, they're not on a full salary, they're not on full benefits, they have very little that they have to live off. If I'm right, it's about 30 something pounds a week as a family, you know, and it's not much that they have to live on, and they had a full life wherever, you know, they're coming from, any refugee. But it's just that their environment has been made so unlivable, and most often than not, that is by countries in the West. So I think it's really important that, I know we're at the end of Refugee Week, but we have Refugee Weeks that we can, you know, try to understand why refugees, why people come here and claim, you know, to be refugees. You know, I had a brilliant picture to show, but I don't know how that works. So it's okay. But if you can, you know, look up for Sama, S-A-M-A, and listen to her story and the video diary that she was keeping for her daughter, because there'll be many more people that are refugees here in our country that have come from similar backgrounds, and it's been no fault of their own. So I think that's what I'd like to say about that, about Aleppo. We do hear a lot about Aleppo in the news, and but we don't live there. You know, we don't see or hear what happens. And this lady's video really gives you an insight to someone's everyday, ordinary, in inverted commas, ordinary life that they have to go through. And I remember when I was watching the video, the lady actually said, Syria, they've been at war for 50 years, half a century. They've been at war, you know, for half a century. So, yeah, I think Refugee Week, it's been a very busy week, a very tiring week for those of us who work with refugees. But I think more so their stories need to be told over and over again, so that we get to understand the neighbours that we have living within our midst, that we can be neighbourly towards them and welcome them into our neighbourhoods and enable them to live, you know, a comfortable life amongst us and not see them as outsiders. So on that note, could I say a little prayer, or?
Please do.
Okay, if we could bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, you taught us well, and you taught us what it means to be a neighbour, that we should do unto others as we wish them to do unto us. Let us not just have that as a saying and as a slogan, but let us put those words, or enable us to put those words into practice in our lives, in our everyday lives, what it means to be a neighbour. We know that all lives matter. We've heard in the news about Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. However, if all lives matter, then why is it that some people's lives don't seem to matter? We seem to treat certain people in a certain way with certain disregard. Let us know that all lives matter, and let us treat other people as we would like to be treated. Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, please give us the strength. Give us the strength and the knowledge and the wisdom to be able to go about our daily lives as you intended us to, and love our neighbours, not only with words, but with practice. I thank you, Heavenly Father above. Amen.
Amen.